ในหมายเนี้ยมันให้ขึ้นไปทำไมก็ไม่รู้
มีด้วยเหรอ
มีชื่อด้วย
ยังไม่ได้ดู
เรื่องแอนตี้เรื่องเอจจิ้ง
อ๋อเห็นแวบๆอยู่
แล้วก็บอกเป็นฟอรัมแล้วก็ถามให้คุยเรื่องอะไรตอนแรกบอกว่างั้นพี่จะคุยเรื่องเอ็กซ์ไซส์ปรากฏว่ามันแยกหัวข้อเป็นเอ็กซ์ไซส์ขึ้นมาต่างหากแล้วไอ้ฉันพูดเองเอาแล้วกูจะพูดเรื่องอะไรกูไม่จะรู้เรื่องไหมบ่ายนี้เป็นประชุมของปารีส2/4เรื่อง medical เขาออนไลน์เขาเปิดให้คนไปที่ปารีสไปดูด้วยแล้วก็เปิดออนไลน์ด้วย
ไม่เกี่ยว
ก็พี่ต้องเข้าพี่เป็นประธานฝ่ายแพทย์ก็เลยให้โค้ชเข้าไปฟัง
ผมเลยสบาย
ใช่
เลยเดี๋ยวพอถึงมีเวลาถึงเวลามีปัญหาเดี๋ยวเขาก็ตรงนี้เขายังคิดว่าเขาจัดการได้อะไร
เขาทางโอลิมปิกเขาก็ผมบอกว่าพี่บอกว่าเรื่องอะไรเกี่ยวกับ medical นี่อยู่ส่งมาให้ได้ไหมเพราะว่าบางอย่างยูเลทอยู่ไม่รู้อยู่นั่นนี่นั่นแล้วมันไม่ไปเขาบอกไม่ได้เขาต้องดูคนเดียวมีแค่เขาเดียวสำหรับโอลิมปิกแล้วพอมันมีเรื่อง medical อ่ะมันส่งมามันก็ไม่สนใจแล้วมันก็ไม่รู้เราไม่รู้ก่อนให้ลำบากถึงเขาพูดมากเดี๋ยวเขาก็งานเยอะอยู่อยากจะไปบ่น
เยอะจริง
เยอะตอนนี้มันคนเดียวไอ้แนนทำหลายเรื่องนะเรื่องนั้นมันรับอยู่คนเดียวมันมีทั้งเรื่องนักกีฬามีทั้งเรื่องmedicalมัน
เดินชนกันอยู่ในโอลิมปิกไม่รู้มัน
แต่คนมารู้แต่เด็กคนไม่เยอะนะ
องค์กรที่ต้องติดต่อ
นั่นสิใช่ไหมมันเลยกลายเป็นมีปัญหามันเลยกลายเป็นแบบ
ผู้ซึ่งเบื่อ
เรื่องอยู่คนเดียว
เราต้องถามว่าคนอื่นทำอะไร
นั่น
มาบอกอยู่วันนี้ว่า
เรื่องอะไรครับ
ติดตรวจงบขึ้นก็บ่าย3ช่วงบ้านเรา10
นั่งกับใคร
ก็เคยสั่ง
อ้าวไม่ได้ทำว่าเลเตอร์ทั้งหมดเป็นอะไรทำอะไร
แบ่งกันที่ว่างไงจนกระทั่ง
ไม่มีชื่อพี่ป่ะมีป่ะไหนดูดิ
ไม่ใช่กับของพี่มัน
ไม่เป็นใน
ช่วงผมเขาพูดไปแล้ว ทำไปแล้วไงเมื่อกี้
ไม่ใช่เป็นมอเตอร์เตอร์นะเป็นแชนเนลเลย
ชา
นะ
แนลพรุ่งนี้
วันนี้ไม่มีเหรอบ่ายมาบ่ายอ่ะ
ชาแนลพรุ่งนี้
วันนี้บ่ายมีอะไรวันนี้บ่าย
เป็น Women Sport Area Version
ให้เขาดูหน่อยเขาดูเพราะว่ามันเปลี่ยนนี่อันใหม่ถูกไหม
ที่มันส่งให้ของพี่พรุ่งนี้
ว้าเหรองั้นเดี๋ยวจะได้ไปรอประชุมอ๋อต้องจะทาเรียมันสี่
ไม่มีแล้ว
ดี
เดี๋ยวถ้ามีแบบอีกนะ
มีอันนี้เดี๋ยวที่เนี่ยสปอร์ตประชุมทำสายขึ้นแล้วก็ทำวันเปลี่ยนคือสุดยอดสารเตรียมเลย
พรุ่งนี้ผมก็ไม่มีจำไม่ส่งนี้ก็ดี
มาเจอบูไนนะเขาเพิ่งเริ่มต้นทุกอย่างเลย
มันเคยจัดแล้วแหละแต่ว่าผมขึ้นมาเริ่ม
ทำอะไรในการเนี่ยยิ้มพูด
เพราะกว่ามันจะรวมตัวกันได้นะ
Thank you.
Calling to all participants, please take your seat as the conference will soon begin.
Oh, you. Oh, I will put up the sign when the okay.
Dr. Shmak will wake up. He's taken him up.
You see?
Yeah, he's sitting.
Is it 5 minutes of 20 minutes or 5 minutes of...
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and welcome back to all delegate speakers and conference participants. We hope you all are full of energy for this afternoon session. To kick off this afternoon, we ask Dr. Tanya Alinami from Canada for the first topic of this afternoon, medical considerations for Muslim female athletes. May I first ask the moderators for this afternoon, Dr. Hilary Inwood and Dr. Isam Shaban, to take their seats.
I'm here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please let's stand up and do a little bit of stretching because I know it's very difficult after lunch to listen to me. Please do a little bit of stretching, a little bit of jogging. Yes, please, please, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I need a massage.
Coaching on
I
it.
hope you feel a little bit refreshed. It's my pleasure and honor to participate in this conference. I'm originally from Iran, but I live and practice in Canada right now. But what I'm sharing with you is my experiences in Iran. I have to thank all the organizers for the very prestigious conference, especially Dr. Sam.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate that Dr. Sam gave full sessions and afternoon session for the women's sport. It's a good sign. I think that there are a lot of interest in the air in Brunei for women's sport. And so last time when this is my second time that I'm in Brunei. Last time when I was here, I was invited by late Dr. Danish Zahir. And I just want to respect and I wish his soul rest in peace. Also, my other colleague, Dr. Farasat Hussein, was with me in Brunei. Both of them, unfortunately, they are not in this hall. And I hope their soul rest in peace. Okay, so this is my background. You see that I have a lot of background in sports medicine, sports science in different parts of the world. My research focus is mostly on shoulder injuries, biomechanics, and stuff like that. But I am committed to work and participate and promote the area of women's sport, because I think it's really necessary, especially in Islamic countries. So today, what I want to discuss is a little bit about the women's sport, a little bit of challenges of Muslim female athletes, and then I will go to medical consideration, which I think is the main purpose of this lecture. Everybody told me that the topic of women's sports is a little bit sensitive, and I'm used to that, don't worry, because it used to be very sensitive in Iran too, so I try my best to just share the knowledge, okay? So, you know, women are not an old comer, they are actually the late comers. The father of the Olympic, the modern Olympic, he said that participating in sport is appropriate for women. And he also said that Olympic is not winning. The point of Olympic is to fight well. And I believe women fought well to enter in Olympic Games. So you see that this is the very old table, and we can see the number of females that participated in Olympic in 1896 was 0. In Olympic 1900 in Paris, only 11 women could participate. When you look at the green table, which is related, or column, which is related to participation of female athletes, Muslim female athletes, you see that the number is very low. And so the number of female athletes was, the Muslim female athletes in Olympic 1984, it was actually about 1/10 or even 1/12 of the male participants. But you know, you see the trend is changing, and this is the trend in words. So the number of female athletes is increasing. And they are almost, in Olympic 2020, almost 50% of participants were female athletes. So why female athletes was improving? There are so many reasons. One of them was, the freedom of women everywhere, the notion of women's freedom. But there are organizations and groups that actively participate in that to support women's sport. Also, the IOC, they developed the equity policies that push and encourage the other federations, the other countries, to send more female athletes. And also, national federations, they were the fan of female athletes because they could have more success and better ranking, because the women could, win more medals. In Olympic 2016, some countries had more female delegates than men. One of them was Islamic country, Bahrain. So when we talk about Muslim female athletes, what is the point? What is the concept? You know that this is the stereotype in Western countries, that Muslim, when you say Muslim woman, the term actually evokes a stereotype, a very veiled woman who are segregated and who are isolated, and the participation in sports is not very easy for them. And so we had women athletes that they had the religion of Islam, but for example, I believe some of you know Mrs. Nawal Mutawakkil, who is one of the IOC members. She was one of the Moroccan female athletes which won a gold medal in 1984. But what is challenging for women, for Muslim women, is some other aspects of participation. You know that Muslim women had some rights that Western countries were, they didn't have such opportunities. For example, in Islamic countries, female had right to, or still have right to inherit property, right to have a name, but they don't need to have they carry their husband's name. They had and still have right to vote and participate in physical activity. The point of participating in physical activity, so you know, women that they were participating in horse riding, different type of in gyms. So here is not the battle. The battle is when we are coming to this area of professionalism and the area of elite athletes or athleticism. Because when we come to this area, there are two issues that are somehow contradicting with the Islamic belief. One was the sexualization and sport media that to attract more, people to watch the game. So maybe they somehow focused more on the sexualization of the female sports. And the other one was the professionalism, because when you were you're playing as a professional athlete, it's important that you be committed to that. And so that may be somehow in contradiction with our Islamic belief, with the roles of women in their societies. So you see that even, what about the sexualization that I discussed? Still, this is a battle for the athletes, to convince the media to focus on the athleticism part rather than the sexual part. So these two issues hold the female Muslim women's sport. One is the cultural barriers, the other one is wearing hijab and playing with following the rules of the Sharia. As a witness, since 1994, I'm working with Muslim female athletes, and I work with my country. I am still in contact with it. So I can say Muslim female athletes were in a battle and in a challenge with different organizations. Some Sharia rules were, dictating a certain type of coverage. We had the International Sports Federation rules that telling, okay, you can't wear this and that, and this part should be exposed, that part should be exposed. We had the problem of professionalism and social barriers, because the society was asking, okay, so what about your husband? What about your children? What about, if you want to go to different trips? And so what about your roles as a mother, as a wife? And also, in my country, we have political issues, because you have the female athletes should have somehow represent the revolutionary thoughts and ideology. And the women's sports was the Muslim female sports was in this battle. So I give you one example that I witnessed. In one of the games for soccer players, they were banned to participate just 2 hours before, in the airport, because some of the Islamic leaders, they were not happy with their hijab, with their coverage. Again, our soccer team was banned from playing in Jordan because the International Federation was not happy with their coverage. So, I'm telling you this because if today you can play with hijab in many sports, there was a long battle. There was many brave people that they fought, and they did what they could to convince the international sports organizations, as well as the internal leaders in the societies, to tell them, to let them to show their performance, to let them to show that how much they can reach to their body, to their limits. So now, one of the problems that we had at least 30 years ago that I was working with the elite athletes was having a role model. And today, fortunately, we have many role models of that they changed that stereotype. Even for the female athletes in general, they are fighting and they are trying to show that athleticism part, and they're fighting to tell the media that they are not the model. They want to be an athlete, and that part should be the focus of attention. And so there are battles everywhere that it's time to stop policing women's clothing and start raising expectations of men. And I can say, if the battle won, I can't I can say that I am a witness that more than 50%, or even really more than 50% of this medal is owed to men, because the men who support the sports, the participation of women in sport. Okay, so despite all the barriers, you see that female athletes nowadays Muslim female athletes participate in different parts of the world. You can see them in Olympic villages with hijab, and there is not that such restriction or limitation that was in the past. It's going forward. So when we have in that situation, so it's better that we educate ourselves about the specific medical considerations for this population. Okay, so how many of you are working with female athletes? Just raise your hand. Okay, so hopefully you will, when you work with this, especially with Muslim female athletes, there are some points, I'm not talking about all the medical aspects of female athletes, I'm just focusing on the things that are important for Muslim female athletes. One of them is the notion of hijab and intolerance. So unfortunately, because the Muslim female athletes, female or women's sports is a new concept, is a new notion. So we don't have so much research about different aspects of the medical aspects or scientific aspects of their participation. For example, this is one of the studies that has been done in UK, I believe, and they checked 8 young athletes. You see the number of participants are very small, but they checked the different parameters that can tell us about the heat tolerance in with hijab and without hijab condition. The people who participated in this study, they were not accustomed to hijab. So that is why maybe this is one of the reasons that we had some changes in the perception, the rate of perceived exertion in two groups. Also, we have the study that this study has been done in Iran. So they wanted to know if the temperature, the body temperature, is exceeding the NIOSH or the organization. The NIOSH is an organization that for the occupational safety and health. So they set the criteria for occupational health, safety and health. And you see that they didn't see that the parameters that they checked were not exceeding the threshold limits that was set by NIOSH. One of them, I thought that, okay, so which part of the studies could be relevant to us? And I thought that, okay, one of the area that could be relevant to us are the armies, the people who have to do physical activity with different type of, clothing that is different from the normal athletic clothes. So you can find many studies about the heat tolerance in female vet and armies. And the most important thing is that in this study, different meta-analysis that you can find, and I gave you some of the addresses, is that heat tolerance is a multifactorial thing. It's not only related to clothes. Clothes is one of them, but heat tolerance is related to several factors such as physiological characteristics, aerobic capacity, hydration status, sweating capacity, and hormonal issues can affect it besides clothing. So, and you know that when we want to control something, when we want to prevent something, we should focus on the factors that can be modified or modifiable factors. So what is modifiable for athletes, for female athletes, to control the heat tolerance? The modifiable factors here are, one of the modifiable factors, if you remember, was the physiological characteristics, and one of them is the fat mass. The other one is the aerobic capacity. So when the athlete's aerobic capacity is low, the tolerance to heat can be worse. So the strategies that we are setting, at least in Iran, is to increase the aerobic capacity of our athletes and also work on lean body mass. You know, the female, in general, women may have 25% of fat mass in the body. And you know, for the athletes, this percentage is much lower than the normal population. If you work on that, maybe we can have some better outcomes. The other one is the heat acclimatization. So it's being accustomed to working with this kind of clothing. So usually we have different heat acclimatization in different parts of the world, even for the armies. I believe that if you look at the studies that have been done on vets, you can see that they acclimatize the athletes or the vets for the different type of environment. So repeated exercise session in hot condition, for example 30 to 40 degrees centigrade, while wearing hijab. So in this way, even during the training, we encourage our athletes to do the training with hijab so they can tolerate the situation better. And for elite athletes, for female athletes, it's better that the duration of acclimatization will be a little bit longer. Also, one of the issues that you can do is that you can find the athletes who are susceptible to heat intolerant or susceptible to heat problem or so-called heat intolerant. So you can check in pre-participation examination, you can check your athlete. For example, so one of the protocol for this is, sorry, I don't know, I think my slides are, the setting is different, so it cannot be shown. Okay, so maybe the setting was different. But anyway, so the heat stress test, the concept is that, for example, you ask the athlete to run on treadmill for 2 hours, and then you check the rectal temperature, you also check the heart rate, and based on the heart rate and rectal temperature, you can understand whether the athlete is heat intolerant or not. For example, the heart rate more than 150 or the rectal temperature more than 38.5. The other issue is educating your athlete how to recognize whether they are dehydrated or not. For example, if they can check, they can weigh their body mass, they can check their urine, the color of the urine, the quantity of the urine, and also with a strip with the osmolality or the specific gravity, and how to hydrate themselves. And whether we have to set another strategy for our Muslim female athletes, I don't know, but this is the general rule that you consume 1.5 times the amount of water lost during the training sessions. And sometimes you can even use the other stuff that can cool your athlete, for example, the cooling techniques, sponge or ice wets that in some training sessions the coach are familiar with. There are some, also if you look at the literatures, you can see that there are some kind of technology for the type of the material of the clothing for female athletes that can help them with the heat dissociation. Okay, so we still need some high standard research, especially for my young colleagues who are here and they wanted to study about the female athletes. It's important that we answer these questions because we don't have enough research that answer the questions that what is different for our Muslim female athletes, whether they are more susceptible to heat injury, whether we have to have a better hydration setting for them. These are the questions that hopefully in the future we will answer. The other one is calorie intake. So you know that I'm sure that you've heard about the female athlete trial. We don't use this term anymore. But the concept is that when our athletes are in low energy availability, which could be because of their body image, the problem of the body image, or the problem of the athleticism that you have in a certain weight, or because of the westernization society, that westernized society, that a special type of body image is imposed. So they may be in the low energy state. In the low energy state, So the body will choose. The body will choose heart. The body will choose brain. The body will choose your kidney instead of the reproductive system. And so that is why that many of these athletes will have irregularity in their menses. And because of the low estrogen level, they may have a problem with the bone health. Okay, is it a Western thing? It's interesting, before that madness in the Middle East, this study has been done in Israel on Muslim female, women regarding their perception about the body image, and they found that having the strength of religion can also be a protective factor for the body image disturbances. But is it true? If you look at the literature in different places, you see that the rate of anorexia nervosa, bulimia, or any kind of energy, low energy state is considerable. So, for example, you see this study in Oman, in Jordan, in different parts of the world, the Islamic world. Even in Pakistan, you can see that the number of... Sorry?
3 minutes.
Even in Pakistan, you see that the number is increasing. The number of eating disorder is very high. So in Iran, we did a study and we realized that, okay, the same issue we have in Iran as well. And so many of our athletes, they have the problem with low restriction, low energy availability. So I found this within, I found this that even in Malaysia, they found the same condition. So it's important that you understand that the athlete who had low energy availability or relative energy deficiency in the sport, they may have different conditions. They may come with decreased performance. They may have increased risk of injury. They may have impaired in judgment, even overtraining symptoms, even stress fracture. So it's important that you understand that that condition can put your athletes in different type of presentation. The last point that I want to discuss is the vitamin D deficiency. Again, in Iran, we did a study and we realized that many of our women are vitamin D deficient. The same study was done in Saudi Arabia, and they found that the vitamin D deficiency is more pronounced in women because of the type of hijab that they're wearing, or because of the race, I don't know, maybe both, or the low intake of the daily foods. But
1 minute to question and answer.
Sorry?
1 minute to
Yes,
question and
that
answer.
is my last year. Vitamin D deficiency is contributing in stress fracture. There are so many studies that vitamin D deficiency can contribute in a stress fracture. And you can find different studies that they suggest that it's better that you have the supplementation of vitamin D for your athletes. So I'm telling you, sorry for this one, I'm telling you that if you have an athlete that should play with hijab, if your athlete is especially in low energy intake condition, and if your athlete is in weight class sports, and especially if they are working indoor, it's better that you start supplementation of vitamin D for your athletes. So I hope in the future we have better studies, better research, and I really encourage my young colleagues here to do research in the field of female athletes, Muslim female athletes, and so we can have better care of our young female athletes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a very interesting subject. Do we have any questions from the floor? While our audience think about it, I'd like to maybe raise a question. It's always very controversial how much vitamin D and how much calcium should we give as a supplement for a covered athlete.
The study that showed the higher rate of stress fractures in athletes, we have three types of the number of vitamin D3 levels. Most of them, the athletes had vitamin D level between 30 to 40, that they were more prone to this stress fracture. So we can start supplementation until we reach, increase the vitamin D level in a level higher than this number. So usually in 75 nanogram is the one that is the lowest level that we can say, okay, the athlete doesn't have insufficiency. Higher degree, until 150 is the level that we can say, okay, the athlete has enough vitamin D storage in the body. So I think we can adjust based on the number that we receive in our pre-participation examination. We can check the vitamin D level in our athletes.
And we have to give
Usually
the
800.
calcium with vitamin D, right?
Sorry?
We have to give the calcium with vitamin D, right?
Yeah, calcium is one of the issues that if they don't take dairy products, so maybe yes. The WHO recommendation is 800 to 1,000 units per day. For calcium is 1,200, but it depends. For example, one of the issues that I didn't have time to discuss was about iron. So in general, so the iron level, the hemoglobin level could be 120, for example, for general population and female population. And we can say, okay, it's a normal range. But for elite athletes who are doing an aerobic exercise, is it really 120 is a good number for the aerobic exercise for an elite athlete for the hemoglobin? We can find many in the literature, many studies that they suggest it's better to be more than 113. About vitamin D, I don't remember any special number, but I can say it's better that the vitamin D level be in the range of between 75 to 150 based on the amount of supplement, 1,000 or 2,000 that you give to your athlete, but it's better that you have your vitamin D in that range.
And another question about also female athletes. When we talk about the period and the menses, I've been working with athletes in different countries where they have amenorrhea, extending from maybe 6 months to 1 year. So how many years or how long is it tolerable without requesting for interference?
Requesting, sorry?
Interference, to interfere with medication to reset the menses backward.
I think it's, okay, so when you can say amenorrhea when the person has 6 months of not having period. But one of the problems of our athletes is not amenorrhea, but it's mostly oligomenorrhea. It means that the number of the menses is less than, or the time, the duration between two menses is always longer. So I think when I have an athlete that has oligomenorrhea or amenorrhea, it means something to me. It means that either my athlete is not having enough energy, consumption. Either the training session is too much. And so we usually interview, we usually discuss that with athletes. And we tell them, okay, so even sometimes the athletes like that they don't have period or they have the oligomenorrhea because it can somehow be a benefit during the competitions, or at least they think that it's a benefit during the competition. And what I discussed and I talked about the effect on their bone health and the other aspects of their lives. And so we try to, if the problem is this low energy state, we try to improve that one first.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other from the floor? Okay. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Talia Alinyomi.
This one goes off by itself.
Can we please have Dr. Isam to present the appreciation certificate? Thank you for Dr. Isam and Dr. Talia Alinyomi. call the next speaker to present you the topic Gender and Ethics in Sports, which is a well-bespoken topic around the world of sports these days. Today, an insight will be given by Dr. Roshana Moradi, which is the Vice President of the Persian Orthopedic Trauma Association of Iran. Please welcome to the stage Dr. Roshana Moradi.
Hello. Really, it's my pleasure that to be here. And unfortunately, the CV is not very updated, and I should change something in it. Actually, I'm the Secretary General of the Iranian Orthopedic Association, and I'm the executive member of the AFSM, and member of the medical committee of OCA. So, my first touch to your country is this small magnet. It's offered to me by Professor Danish Sahir, an old friend, and with his, you know that he's one of our last president of AFSM. His career as a presidential time was too short, but his career in the AFSM long and with a lot of memory for all of us and for the career of the AFSM. Just remember him. Today we talk about that ethics and sportsmanship. All of us are familiar with sportsmanship. Ethics is a lot of common things with sportsmanship. When we talk about that ethics, sorry, I think that the format of the slides was changed. Maybe, yeah, but it doesn't matter. When we talk about that ethics, it's being good in character and doing right. A sportsmanship is the same, is being good in character and doing right in a sport. So ethics is the broad spectrum from the sportsmanship. What's the principle of the ethics? Fair play and equality. It's the two most principle of the ethics. All of the policies, guidelines, and programs promote the fair play and equality. Quran told that whoever works rightly, man or woman, and has faith very life, to him will we give a new life that is good and pure, and we will bestow such their rewards according to their actions. You see that Quran is mentioned that man or woman. But what is the real? What's the current situation? In current situation, women perform 2/3 of the work, but they earn 1/10 of the world's income. He are between the 2/3 of world's poor, and they has on less of the 100 of the world's property. Really, it's a big difference with the woman, between the men and women. But sport is often perceived as embodying positive values for morals such as the cooperation, natural respect, and fair play and equality. And at the same time, sports can promote mental and physical health. And the studies have shown that the reduced risk of the chronic disease later in the life. So, in 2003, UN resolution was adopted which called on governments to use sport as a means to promote education, health, development, and peace. So, gender equality, noted sport, is more than a cause now. It's a human right. And it's a fundamental principle of Olympics. But what is the real? You see that he's the static of the woman participant in the Olympic game. We started from, I think it's not 4, it doesn't matter. We started from the Paris. We lost the first. And we continue until now. Why we lost the first? Because that time they considered that the physical effort, like running, jumping, climbing, might damage women's reproductive system and make them unattractive to men. And the father of the new Olympic, Pierre de Coubertin, argued that the women's participation would be impractical, uninteresting, unaesthetic, and incorrect. And they think that it leaves the woman just do the applause and remarks. So we have a great success until now. We lost the first, and we started from the Paris with only 2% of the whole of the participants, and now in the Tokyo we have nearly 48%. It's nearly like the general population, because always the general population of female is less than the male. Okay, in Tokyo we have a lot of success. One of that is that we have the record of the percentage of the female participants. And the second that, the women's event and double and mixed event as a double from the Rio, the last Olympic. They try to schedule the visibility, the more visibility of the women event, and finally they try to men and female athletes jointly carry their national flag. It's a big difference from the past. But there are a lot of gaps. There are the practical, personal, social, and cultural. And the first gap is that in the stereotype. Always the girl thinks that the sport is the masculinity. From the past, they think that the Hercule is a man and the sport is the dependent of the Hercule. But the female should be like the Venus, more soft, beautiful, and unfortunate. But it's the first. When we continue, in the real time, the man has a lot of time and lack of childcare, because the woman is more reactive to the needs of our family, take care of the great responsibility of the housework, childcare, and the care of the elderly of the family. So there is no time for leisure. Excuse me, may I have a bottle of water? Thank you. So what we can we can use some opportunity for female, for child caring or something like this. It prepares It prepares more time for female to go to sport. The second, lack of the money. Think about the UN statistics. We don't have a lot of money for female. And female tend to earn less money than the men. There is a statistic from the Scottish women. They earn average 500 pounds less than men monthly in the full-time work. But usually the female working part-time, not full-time. And in the end, in the low-income family, there is no money. If there is a money, they prefer to go give them to the boys, not the girls. So there is no money. What's the solution? The solution is using the public places and gratuitous places to sport. If we could arrange the public places for the women, the money is not very important. Lack of transport. There is a lot of practical problem for women, young children, elderly women and girls with disability, and women and girls living in the rural area to transport and transfer to the sport places. We remember that there is some places in the world that for crossing the river, you must lose your tip of the finger. So it's more important for women. What's the solution? It's the better that the female change his usual activity into a sport, working together, and something like this. Personal safety. everywhere, on the street, on public transport, in and around of the sport and community venues. Always people, female as in the risk of safety. Some of the women, like black and minority ethnic girls and people and women with disability, are more at risk. What's the solution? The solution is to make a safety assessment of the venue, raising the security, street lighting. It's a good because it's more touristic places. Raising the public transport and teach the self-defense. It's important. Yeah. Funding and facility. Always the people reach the funding less than men. Less funding and less facility. Less funding is less costume, less equipment and everything. Women's team don't attract the sponsorship from the public and private. It's the problem. What's the solution? Try to build some women's sport foundation or something like this, and try to attract the public and private sponsorship. Body image. Usually, females have greater body image dissatisfaction. Feel less self-conscious when taking part in sport. And sometimes dress code is a problem for them. Dress code in swimming in some sports. This body image follow them to have the lack of self-confidence. And girls on average have a less self-confidence. Usually the female don't like the competition. They prefer do the sport without competition. What's the solution? Use the sports like this. Yoga, fitness, or something like this. They can sport together without competition. Being taught that the separation between the gender is rules. It's very good because with the separation between the match and the sport between gender, you can equal opportunity for all athletes to play and succeed. You have the ensuring that the comparing fairness and physical safety for the both of all, and the developing a sport and promoting the sports. But the problem that male has a lot of privilege. What is the privilege? More wealth, power, and prestige for men. Role model always men. Muhammad Ali, Clay, Pele, Maradona, always the men. Society is fatherhood. Women are seen in a child raiser and a home worker. And women were expected to be just cheerleaders. Do you remember that? It's the thinking of the Pierre de Coubertin, just cheerleaders. And the problem that always the journalists are men, and always try to take a picture from the woman out of sport and the men in action. And always prefer to take the picture from the male athletic, not female athletic. Sorry. Up to now, men are more often hired for coaching position and high paid in coaching position. And lots of the female team are coached by men. You see that between the Rio and the Tokyo, there is no progress, nearly no progress. And here is the decision-making position in a sport. You see that here is the gender balance zone. We are very far from there. Here is the International Olympic Committee in around the world. You see that there is a big difference between female and male participants. But when we go to the international position, the position a little bit better. Okay, but there are a lot of social barriers for women. Usually, there's a lot of speech that women are more likely to get married. It's not true. Women are psychologically weak. Believe me, it's not true. Sport masculinization woman. Believe me, it's not true. Sports are for lesbian. It's not true. And they can return to play. Oh no, it's not true. Usually the female are continue to play, to work when, after a short period of recovery. Boys control the power, it's true. Okay. So, there is enormous things for female athletes. Usually the female athletes examine more than for sexuality. The Williams sister always judge about her fitness, their fitness, not for their performance. In 1993, Brandi Chastain was criticized for taking her jersey off after winning the World Cup. But it's not criticize a man for doing the same. And always they like women to be sexy, just sexy. We need role model. We need someone who was the first gold medalist and something like this. And you see that in the South, we have a lot of women. It's a really great change. 5 minutes. We need a role model. The role model has the limits, like Comaneci. The first 10 scored in the world. IOC do a lot of things for the gender equality. Participation, leadership, safer sport, for trial and resources. But believe me, someone like me is the first orthopedic surgeon in my country, and we should believe that we are in the midway and we go reach the peak. Thank you.
Okay.
We can open the floor for questions if any of you young men have any questions. You must do, really. I mean,
We have women as athlete here. You have Afghan. She's a swimmer.
Ah, okay.
Hafiza. Physiotherapist.
So you spoke a lot about the sort of inequalities in representation a little bit during your presentation. Is there equal representation of female athletes or the female population in sports and exercise medicine research, for example, when it comes to dietary guidelines or recommendations or even training guidelines and recommendations?
I couldn't understand what you say.
Is there equal representation of the female population and their response perhaps to certain training parameters or guidelines in comparison to the recommendations and guidelines for male sports? Like, is there an equal amount of research on the female population?
There are a lot of research, but usually all of the research is the focal. I could find some research in the Finnish, Finland country. I could some research in the European country, and but there is no cohort research and multi-center research about this matter. Maybe I couldn't find.
Research. So, you know, as I said, female athleticism for women is about 100 years, 100 something. So for male, you have a long history of athleticism. So the studies, so imagine about the First World War, Second World War, and so many other stuff that switched the budget to the other type of research. Most of the research, or I can say, is mostly during the last 30 years. And we have some studies about the women's sport in the last 30 years, which is not enough. And still, there are so many questions that we don't know how to answer. For example, one of the questions is whether the oral contraceptives can have effect on preventing of some of the female acts in trial, or even on their tolerance to heat. We don't know. And there's so many, which is many women are using oral contraceptive. And so there are so many room for study, especially if you are interested to do research for your PhD, for your master, or for your medical degree. There are so many rooms for studies.
Actually, there are some reports from IOC and the European Country Sports Subdivision, and there are both of them are the comprehensive reports with full of research, but not special research.
One place. Get involved.
Okay, thank you.
No more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the insight of this hot topic in the world of sports these days. Thank you, Dr. Roshanak. Can we please ask Dr. Hisham to present the appreciation certificate? And also thank you, moderators, Dr. Hillary and Dr. Sam, for your insights during Dr. Roshanak's presentation. We will now have a short break to stretch our legs and let this knowledge settle in. We will commence in 30 minutes with this afternoon's forum on women in sports.